here we are again. Another Saturday here, another confessional to talk. This is Ben for Movie Confessions,
This is John J. Fry.
and thank you for joining us on this very, very quiet Saturday night, wherever you all are at. Right now, we are currently streaming, and okay, what you guys say?
No. I'm just fixing that audio, my camera, because
Okay,
it has a mind of its own. Go ahead.
is it true? Are we gonna have to start fearing artificial intelligence people? Because
I don't know. They might come after my Logitech camera. I don't know.
oh,
Maybe.
maybe.
Go ahead.
Similar to the format we had going with last week, we'll be covering a couple things here. One is a movie review. The other is a piece of movie news. We will be talking about what we'll be doing going forward with the podcast and with the new YouTube channel, and I guess any other little tidbits we come up with at the end. So it'll be four main things we got. So the big thing for the movie review we got today is, which was recently, I believe, taken off HBO MAX because they're doing their now month of on streaming and then still in theaters and so back, is
Right.
The Little Things, which stars Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto. And who directed it? Oh, John Lee Hancock, who I think his last film he did was the Netflix's The Highwaymen. Yes. And
Right.
he's done a lot of interesting stuff here and there, but this was his most recent one, where there's a little bit of history with this film, but I will get into that after I go over our synopsis and review of the film. So essentially, this film takes place in the 90s, where a series of gruesome murders are taking place over Los Angeles. And while, many law enforcement agencies are investigating these murders, we get a deputy sheriff, Mr. Joe Deacon, played by the always fantastic Denzel Washington, coming into the fray, helping out the local police, where Detective Baxter, played by Rami Malek, ultimately they wind up teaming up to solve these crimes in a neo-noir crime thriller fashion, where their main suspect happens to be a man, his name's Albert Sparma. This last name's really weird.
I think in the movie, if I'm not mistaken, they just go by Albert a lot.
Yeah.
His first name, like they just go by
Albert.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, but that's played by Jared Leto. And basically, this takes a toll on two detectives as like the gravitas of the situation, the whole nature of brutal crimes, etc., and so forth. So we both saw this on HBO Max right before it left. I literally saw it the day before it was going off the service. So,
and I saw it the day, like maybe the second day when it went on, or third day. And go ahead. Do you want to go first, or?
Okay, so obviously the big thing that I will say about this movie that has already been pointed out a lot has been the fact that, yes, this film is in fact reminiscent of Seven, which I believe I've explained a couple times in the past, but I'll explain it here, is my all-time favorite film. I remember this was like literally at the beginning of me getting into being a movie buff, really looking into films, and if I could be a little coy and say a little thing, the reason I saw this movie was because of the Platinum DVD that literally had the title written in its font and just a little thing on the back, which was actually from a relative of mine who, my parents were a little iffy because I want to say it was like 11 or 12, and I was like interested by it. And it was an aunt and uncle saying, let him watch it. I mean, come on. He's going to get into this stuff, like, these type of older, darker films. Let him watch it. First time I watched it, I was like, first of all, surprised initially of how like messed up it is. But the fact that with that movie, we don't see the actual murders, just the after effects of the murders, which show the genius of what they were going for, because it pretty much sells you on the fact like anything you can think of is probably worse than what they could have done, because that was the result of it, which I think that's what that film managed to do excellently. And this kind of obviously had Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman and the whole like dueling cop narrative when it came to those things. So the fact that this movie, and this is the thing that I was mentioning, John Lee Hancock, according to what he had stated in interviews, that he had been developing the script like literally in the early 90s, but by all accounts, it came off bleak, it came off nihilistic. So, and I, around trying to figure out what to do, but obviously when Seven came about, and this is what I read from reports, when Seven came about and it became the big thing it was, people were like, oh my God, this is like the and I'm not saying this me as it being my favorite fan, but obviously because of what it was. This is the perfect neo-noir film. This is the perfect crime film, blah, blah, blah. That films that had tried to emulate or try to do a Seven in nature with, I think the writer trying to do that Nicolas Cage movie, 8mm, trying to formulate the similar success, didn't work because Seven managed to hit the sweet spot of really having that look, courtesy of Mr. Fincher, who I'm pretty sure really took all the negativity he had to go through making Alien 3 to really put it in that movie and ultimately give him something that was definitely worth his scope. Brad Pitt and them having an idea that itself was intriguing. Like, who would ever thought like the seven deadly sins and all this stuff? But I'll probably have a separate video. Obviously, we'll probably do separate videos of our favorite films, or we'll talk about it down the line. But with that in mind, and then with this coming out, I think they were able to get this movie off the ground because I think Denzel or a company were able to pitch it, and they figured, well, it's been a while, and we're trying to do our whole spin on it. That being said, someone who loves Seven as much as I do, it does unfortunately pale into comparison just because of the fact that it is retreading a lot of common ground that at the time Seven was doing, but with what Seven did, being as graphic and gritty and nihilistic in that way, this one, it just, and I'm gonna say it, with the cast it has, it wastes them. Like, that's how I feel.
Well, see, I've watched maybe 30% of Seven, like not like you, like I've told you, like I've sort of seen it, clips here and there, right? Yeah. I haven't like sat down and seen it. I want to get it on Blu-ray, or I'm waiting for the if they come out with a 4K. I don't know at this point, but I even me knowing Seven, I'm like, oh, this is a Seven type of movie. Now, the problem with that movie is it's not jumping around the little things. It's they don't stick with certain characters. You feel like, oh, I want to stick with Denzel character for a little bit more. They don't. They're jumping around. And I'm like, that's what's hurting. And from noir movies, they stick around with a character for quite a while, if I'm not mistaken, for certain movies. Even if I dare do myself, like LA Noire, which is the video game, they stick around with the characters. Each character gets their own story or whatever.
Yeah.
This is like, it's like a mixed bag. I don't know if like ghostwriters were writing it as well, or or it was the same person. It was just jumbled up. I mean, I'm not trying to diss on the movie. I like the movie.
No,
it's all over the place.
That's the thing. When you think about obviously classic, noir crime films,
right,
they themselves, that is kind of their point. You're supposed to learn about these characters, whether it's a detective, whether it's the people in investigations, whether it's like the perp or these victims. You're supposed to get a sense of them because to see like how they think. It's classic when it comes to writing characters and stories. And with you saying we don't stick with them that long, when it jumps, it's like, okay, they should have stuck with it to let ideas and things form, but they just want to get to the next thing. So, and the same guy, John Lee Hancock, since it's by credits, he directed, produced, and he's the writer. So maybe it was the fact that he was trying to like get certain ground covered, but I guess it's the fact that it wasn't as focused as it should have been in aspects. I mean, you think about it, like with Denzel's character, obviously this was a man who obviously had things going on, but then he's now in the sheriff's department. He seems to know things, and he's probably been burdened by what the things he was burdened in the script. You feel that. And Malik not necessarily being the whole like if you see a film like this, like, oh, old weary detective, and you got the young idealistic one, Malik's character isn't necessarily that, but it's someone who's like there has to be a way, there has to be a solution. But we didn't really see a lot of that with the investigation, which I think was another thing that kind of was like, another thing that pales in comparison is the fact like with what Seven did with the murders, brilliantly, as we didn't see them, and it was the afterthought. The many victims in the movie, because I think it was like a pattern with like previous murders where a lot of them were prostitutes, I think, and I know that's kind of common with a lot of like crime stuff. Like it would be
if you're talking about the little things, I think it's the same. But here's a scene I'll describe. All right, so they go in. Denzel is in Robbie Malik's character. He brings him along. Finally, he shows there's a crime scene. They stick with the crime scene, and then Denzel has to go back, but doesn't show you a lot. It's just very little. He's just in that room and stuff. You know what scene I'm talking about, Ben?
Yes.
And I'm like, there could have been more for him to not develop his character, I should say, but like find something else, or like find something weird or something.
Yeah, and I do want to add a point to that when you're done. So
Yeah.
okay,
No,
so
I'm done. Yeah. Go
okay,
ahead.
so the thing. Okay, so and I'm gonna bring another film, another crime film. It's not this,
Mhm.
but something else. Widows, the film with Viola Davis, Michelle Rodriguez, and whatnot. Myself, but I don't know if we saw it, but I know me and Les went to go see it.
Maybe,
And
maybe not with me. Maybe even
okay,
less. But
so
go ahead.
and we generally enjoyed it, but I think a consensus that me and her agreed upon, which I think ties in with the thing with the film, was like it's great with the characters, it's great with the acting, and the heist in that movie was good. But the thing was, it's like you invest a lot of time with the characters, but I feel like the heist could have been a little bit more. So I feel like with the thing you mentioned with like, oh, he should have, been a little bit more when it came to like the investigations or things of the crime. Like, yeah, it has to be a balance. Like, we want to see these characters, we want to see them develop, we want to see like their natures working. But when it comes to the crimes, again, it probably is just like self-standard, like, oh, it's murders, oh, it's this, it's a person with an obvious MO, but we want to see them develop. I mean, even if you watch like true crime stuff, however, they try to distort or do artistic licensing, they do follow the path of like all this is consistent and they put all the pieces in place. Just the fact that it's just, straightforward. Oh, woman was this and that, and the culprit's MO is this, and he has to probably think of that. It's like, okay, well, we want to see it develop more because there's got to be more. So that was, I think, thing that was lacking. And I do want to talk about Leto's character if you have anything else to add in general about the movie.
No. I actually wanted to get to Leto's character as
Okay,
well.
so you
Yeah.
start first, and then I'll add my take because
Okay.
go.
I actually liked his character. I like how he presented his character. I think he was like the best part of the. I mean, besides Denzel's character was great too.
Yeah.
All three main actors did great, but there was something about Leto's character that was just you wanted to know more. It was almost like you were watching another noir movie. Pseudo is Zodiac.
Yes.
Like you
Yes.
wanted to know more. Like, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, I want to know more about his character. And I'm like, oh no, they're not going to give it to us.
Yeah. Which again, by initial looking like at the trailer, or just how Leto is as a character, it could seem like, well, doesn't he like go down this path? And again, that's the thing that I feel with what you said. Like, we could have and okay, going into a little bit of like dicey territory with this. When he was as the Joker, because it's going to be on HBO Max with the Snyder Cut, we're just breaking that in. I felt like with what they should have done with that movie is like, why didn't we get more of him or more with that characterization of the Joker? Bringing that into phrase, like, okay, with this character of Albert, okay, you want to, I guess they want to keep it on its toes, like, oh, he's just like generic, whatever. But it's like, but even then, you could have gave us more as to, okay, because from what I was gathering, and again, it should probably be like a week to year people saw it. He was a guy who just wanted to be a part of things of this nature, like whether it's crimes or murder. So he just wanted to be a part of it. He enjoyed it, even though I never got the feeling he could have went as far as he could. So it was just like play acting in that sense. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No. Yeah, I think I got the same feeling too. But at the same time, I'm going back to the joke.
Yeah.
We both saw Suicide Squad going into the Joker, his variation of the Joker. I liked it, but there was the problem with Suicide Squad was, and I've said this to you before, it needed more. It
Yes.
needed more Joker. Now that we're getting supposedly in the Snyder cut, thank goodness thank God we're getting that cut. Supposedly there's even more scenes with him, and I'm happy. I want to see in because everybody knows it from the pictures. It's supposed to be the Nightmare World Joker.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited for it, and I'm waiting to see what he will bring else into that movie. I'm excited for that movie.
Yeah, just to jump into that before we
Yeah.
finish off the little things, because I was definitely someone who was for Leto being the actor he was, and like he's perfect as Joker, and obviously David Ayer being the director he was, and the take he was doing with Suicide Squad. I was like, okay, I see the take, and if we can go by Joker's logic, because I know it's like, well, he was a mobster, now he's a gangster. It's like, yeah, but I feel like he would do the gangster thing just to kind of get into certain things. I think that's him just in essence, being the theatrical performer the Joker is, he's going all out just to do something. So that's what I initially felt like, the tattoos and the grills. Like, that would be a Joker thing just to obviously play into something. I think, I don't know if it was what he said or what people speculated, is like, I think Ayer said maybe I should have made the Joker the main baddie. And I'm like, well, that could have worked. Whereas like maybe Joker let Enchantress loose just to basically get Harley. That would have seemed like something. He's like, you know what? Fuck everybody else. I'm letting her loose so I can get my Harley. That,
Right.
and then that's the thing, that film kind of being what it was, because as we know, that what they did with the movie was reactionary to Batman v Superman. So Ayer and everybody tried to rush to try to get something, and unfortunately was all this and everything that Leto did. You probably figured, I had a feeling he had more to do, but we couldn't see it. Blah 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 blah. Again, when it came to little things, I feel like they were trying to think like, well, we want to do something that's interesting, want to do something that's character driven. In a way, this is more of an actor's piece. You see Denzel being Denzel. You see Malik go not necessarily going against type, but obviously playing a character that's more nuanced and not like the I guess you could say the out there characters that he was known to play, like in Mr. Robot and his performance in Bohemian Rhapsody, and Leto doing his thing but feeling underused. And that's the thing. You have these actors who are of high caliber in a project that you feel like if it could have had like another rewrite or two, or more stuff could have happened, this could have been more or less as memorable as Seven if done effectively. Like obviously David Fincher has a style that we know of. Back then, that was him really showing everybody what he could do. But it's like that was the Fincher thing, which is funny that we bring up Seven and Suicide Squad, because obviously another thing that people brought with the little things is that the Batman, it seems to be taking a lot of Seven, which I'm like, it's just a shame that Fincher's kind of doing his thing and no one's ever thinking, Fincher, hey, we'll give you creative control on our properties. Why don't you come and do your Fincher thing and make things fucked up? But I digress.
I mean, could you imagine him being in charge of Batman?
Dude, well, it's funny because you figured, obviously, with that, because it's like, yeah. Well, I do remember Snyder having said in an interview long, long ago, which I don't think Fincher would have done that, but Snyder was like, oh, come on. And Batman Begins, he goes to jail, nothing. My Batman could get assaulted in jail. It's like, yo, Snyder, back up. Let's not go with something like that. I feel like Fincher would probably put something like Batman through the ringer psychologically. And if I'm not mistaken, he was approached by Sony at one point to do a Spider-Man movie, but he didn't want to do an establishing one. He wanted to do one where Spider-Man was already there, and he wanted to do straightforward the night Gwen Stacy died. He's like, you know what? I don't want to set shit. I just want to do this story and that. But I think at that time he didn't necessarily have enough pull that he did. But could you imagine if he did that storyline in his own way? You think it'd be too dark for a PG-13?
No. If you're talking about the Spider-Man, the Gwen Stacy thing is very like not horrifying, I should say, but it's very shocking and very like, oh shit. Because even in the panels as you're reading that, it's like, oh fuck. Like you're
just,
like,
you
yeah, you know.
Yeah,
and what the emotional toll of what Peter deals with inside.
It's very psychological.
It's like, yeah, he's all fucked up.
And that could be something that, and probably that was what Fincher said, like, popular character. So you'd figure with that. But again, that's kind of the thing with Seven. And again, did you ever see The Highwaymen on Netflix?
No, not yet. No.
Well, yeah. So basically, that was the deputies or the marshals who hunted Bonnie and Clyde. So it wasn't about Bonnie and Clyde. It was just
I think I've seen it. Who was in?
It's Costner and Harrelson are playing the deputies or the marshals.
Let me continue.
You check up. Yeah. So, but basically, so it probably was just a combination of he figured out what to do. Probably took some pros and ideas of how he made that story, but then to bring it here. But it's like, you're kind of going a route that's been done, and people, and especially with TV, being able to go as far and, by standards, as graphic when it comes to those crimes. It's like, this kind of just seems like a lot of that nature done with, nothing really inventive. So it's like, look, I mean, again, when you bring up LA Noire and you're doing the investigations and whatnot, it's like you see like the passion, you see like the connecting dots, and then you have those characters that we invested. So again, it just seemed like, in essence,
I've seen it.
Okay.
I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen it. Yeah. Yeah. It's really, that movie was really good. I like that movie.
So like I said, but as you remember now, it seemed like he did borrow or get like a lot of stuff he was able to get on that movie. He tried to do it here, but it seems like obviously with the genre and the fact of what was being taken from, a missed opportunity.
Right. Like he was shooting Highwayman like you following these two cops who are going after
Bonnie and Clyde.
right, Bonnie and Clyde. I'm sorry. Bonnie and Clyde. And then you switch to a new noir. Now you're going into another genre that's like whoosh, like far, like far
Yeah.
away.
Yep. So, and yeah, so I guess our final consensus is it's like, look, it's fantastic acting, everything
Right.
about it just oozed an atmosphere of noir, but I guess a lot of the substance really could have used more.
And it needed more, but my rating,
Go.
it's a popcorn flick. It's a
Yeah.
popcorn flick. You enjoy it. I mean, I could see somebody watching it again. I mean, I could see myself watching it again,
Yeah.
but I'm not gonna go, oh, crazy. Let me put it on. You like go crazy and go, oh, let me put it on again. Right away. No.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, definitely same thing for me. Like, it's enjoyable. It's what it was. It's just, more should have happened. So if you're going to watch it, don't, you're going to see a lot of things you recognize, but just enjoy it as it is what they tried to do and everything about it. So, okay. So that was our review of that. So I guess we go into our second big thing, which if you want to pull up, I think you have an article. If you want to pull that up, and then so if you want to start that off, pull up the article and why don't you start it off? Because I know you definitely have something to say about this.
All right. The article is from we're getting our source from Variety that we knew about it for the week before we started. That Alamo Drafthouse files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy announced sale. To what is it, Ben? Altima Capital for his investors. And basically, I mean, I'm not going to read the article. This is just for us as the headline. And the day after they made the announcements, they did say we're not going anywhere. We're still staying around. But it's very interesting of where the industry is going. This goes into what we were going to talk about of how do we feel about where the movie how
we're gonna do, like how us as viewers all around with movies and everything that happened with the pandemic, and then we will segue into what's going to be coming down the line for us for the channel and whatnot. But yeah, like you figured, because since it's been so long since theaters have been out, and Alamo Drafthouse being I'm going to say a niche to as a theater chain, because they allow no cell phones, they had the dine-in service, they were very much about the movies in that sense. Like movie theaters will like that, but they had a little bit more atmosphere when it came to presenting themselves like that. So it was definitely an experience when you went to go see a movie at an Alamo Drafthouse. Because I think you took me to one. I think we saw.
No, we were gonna go.
Okay.
We were gonna go. We were gonna go up we were gonna go to the one at in upstate New York, and I wanted to go. And you see, here's the thing: is also this is how I see it, and I'll go into how I feel about the industry right now.
Yeah.
Look, even when the pandemic started, we had I don't know how many movies in the can already.
Dozens, if not over 100.
Right, over 100 probably. Now I know some people are going to be very shocked. I mean, not shocked, but like you'll be like, "Oh no, I want to wait. Release the fucking movie now. I will buy it physically. I believe in physical copies. Are you telling me that you're not going to want to see that movie anyway? I believe in physical copies. Or even when streaming started, I was like, let me just buy it over on digital, and then I'll buy it physically later, right?
Yeah.
I was at the forefront of like, please, I want to see Black Widow. I want to see Fast and Furious 9. I want to see all these movies. But now that Paramount Plus has come out, I don't know if you heard the news, A Quiet Place got from September, and now it's coming out in May. It went from September now to May.
Because it's doing...
Right, it's doing that 45-day window.
Okay,
now.
yeah.
So they're using that as...
Yeah, like I guess a test fodder. So obviously with the way it was, and it's funny with the little things because of the strategy that HBO Max is doing, from what we know is that a lot of people are upset because I think they didn't take upfront salaries so that they could get first dollar with box office grosses. So I think Warner Brothers and whatever had to pay a lot of them for that gamble that they did.
Right. And I understand it from an actor's standpoint, but from a moviegoer standpoint, I Ben knows this very well. I believe in physical copies. I believe in whether you buy DVD, Blu-ray, or 4K, right? Even if you
Yeah.
buy digital, I don't care. I believe that because I believe in physical copies because it's not about like, oh, I want to have it because I own it and stuff or whatever. It's because when you buy it on disc, the audio code, and this is where, because I'm a big audio buff, when you buy it on a physical copy, it's burnt into the disc, or however you want to say it. It's like it's the mastered audio. When you stream it, not a lot of people know this. It does not sound the same. A lot of people are like, oh, whatever and whatever, and then I'm like, when you buy a soundbar and then say, why does this sound like shit? Then come back to me. Then we'll talk. And I'm not trying to say soundbars are shit. I actually like soundbars. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah. So it's obviously a shift in trends. I mean, you're talking to someone who because it's funny because you remember we did have a direct to DVD market of like lesser quality things, and obviously with the way how streaming has become the giant force that it is because of Netflix and now with Disney Plus, it's like some things can be made and marketed, particularly with shows. Like you can make shows. It's funny. I think about it because obviously there's formats to how this is done. When you have like a week to week
right.
show, you gotta make it feel like that it's a central episode. With binge shows, you have to kind of make them so that you want more, you want more. Like you can write them and format them so that you can literally binge them. Whereas certain shows, say like a personal favorite of mine, Law and Order SVU, it's like, well, obviously they take from the headlines. It's more singular or classic one. X Files always had the famous monster of the week type of episodes.
Yep. And
So
it is still one of my favorites, and I still have yet to get a physical because I want a physical copy. Like I like to collect old TV shows. That's why I have Angel,
yeah,
Buffy, Friends.
I was
I need to get more. So
yeah. So we're in that whole point of like and but I'm someone that's like, look, when we get to a point where we can kind of be comfortable with the movie theaters and whatever, it's like, look, I don't necessarily just want the theaters to just be because that's what is projected right now. When and if the theater change, like we can go into this more I say let's go into this more when we get to like obviously where we're going forward with it. Not just the big blockbustery stuff. I remember one movie we saw that we loved that was definitive popcorn fun that was worth it. The Hitman's Bodyguard. We knew what we are getting into. We knew what that movie was about. We're like, no, we want to be in an environment and a place where we could just sit back, enjoy the hell of it,
yeah,
have that atmosphere. So it's like just also movies like that and some dramas just to kind of get that feel. Because even like when you have certain indie films, they can be shot and made to utilize the whole point of a theater, like just the tone or just how it looks. So to me, that's what it's like. It's like whatever happens, but with this thing going forward, like with A Quiet Place and whatnot, it just seems like okay, maybe they can utilize that strategy to a certain degree. But I guess just before we get into it, because I don't know if you have anything else to add, because I have one more
no,
point with the Alamo Drafthouse situation. No, I just didn't know.
go ahead, Yeah,
Hopefully with this, or hopefully if things progress in a way going forward where theater chains are in a very much a decent state, hopefully, that'll come back and do something more, and maybe will be its own thing again, depending on what happens. But, with this thing, again, it just seems to be rough on everything going on. And, I just don't want the experience to go away because even with something like an experience I know we all enjoyed when we saw Endgame, that was definitely 10 years in the making of definite, at least until the next big one, a once in a lifetime to endure something like that. And that's something that the theaters really do allow. So anything else to add on it before we go into
no. I mean, I agree with you with Endgame and stuff, but I'm from the mindset of now, like if you just this is just me. If you get a soundbar, if you get a home theater system, and you don't all you need to get is the physical copies or digital, however you put it. I mean, I don't think theaters are over. I think they should evolve. That's what I
Yes,
think. I think they
that's
should do. I do
that's yep.
think I do think that they need to like fix some stuff. I But the one thing that was great for theaters was when AMC and all the other theaters were coming out and saying the monthly subscription service, which I had, you had, right? Remember that one?
Yep.
Yeah. So, stuff like that, that was great. But that saved the theaters. But I just it's I mean, I guess I come from a time when when you have a physical copy, it's yours, and I don't think physical copies, if you're gonna get into it, I don't think physical copies are gonna die because people are still buying DVDs. You know,
Yeah, they're still letting those. And hell, even look at the recent trend. Obviously, vinyls are coming back. People love that feeling of like having something like that. Like
yeah.
if I were to show you my thing, it's like, look, I have a library of movies that I specifically want, and I usually get on Steelbook 4K because somebody has been pushed me to that direction.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am very sorry for that. I am very sorry to get you into a steel booklet collection or a 4K collection because somebody came over one day at this household and listened to the surround sound that I have. Now, going forward, I was gonna say,
Yes.
getting in, like rolling into that. I think once in a while, like I probably like for every Saturday, we're trying to make this show long, like not too long, maybe like talk about a couple stuff, and then what did I watch on Blu-ray and stuff.
Yes.
I want to add that into the show. Be like, okay, what did I think of it, and da da da
Yeah.
da.
Do you have anything? Because I know we were talking about that earlier.
I kind of watched Lord of the Rings,
Okay.
the motion picture. I like it. They did fix some stuff going from Blu-ray to 4K, but I mean, my first one was going to be Monster Hunter, but Best Buy delayed my copy. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So
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 go
okay.
ahead.
So no, I was gonna say, if you're done with that, we go on to
Yeah.
the next bit. Okay. So with that again, we'll probably have like a movie review, whatever, and then maybe talk quick about news. Again, we're still trying to figure out like obviously how to do this, but this is the plan going forward, and it goes in regards to that. Hopefully down the line when proper precaution taking place, where we're all like in certain places. Myself and probably a couple people that I know are probably gonna head back to the theaters to watch certain movies in theaters. Like one I'm hoping to see down the line would be Godzilla versus Kong, which is gonna do the multi-release since it is a Warner Brothers film. That is what I'll mostly do from time to time when it comes to that, saying, okay, I saw this movie in theaters, or I saw that in theaters, and talk about like, oh, it's this and that, I enjoyed this and that. That'll be me. You, however, if it's going to be something like that, that's going to be on HBO Max, or if you do get Paramount Plus, if you see it before me, you'll be, because if you were to see his setup, Jay Fry's setup, it literally is in like with his television, with his surround sound system, and correct me if I'm wrong, that one piece that's hanging above you, that's what's that called? That piece
What
that
the put
yeah
this stuff?
yeah because that
Okay,
that helps
this
that helps
okay.
out with it, right?
Okay, all right. I'll explain. This is the sound absorber, like the normal sound absorber that every Twitch user has, and all that stuff. Then I have bass traps, in each like one above here, which you can't see. Then in a couple corners, so when my subwoofer goes off, nobody can really hear it.
Like
You hear it and stuff.
yeah,
It absorbs it.
so he has a very comfortable theater experience in his home. So would whatever movies get onto streaming or whatever, that'll predominantly be J Fry's thing of choice. So again,
Or physical. I'll wait for the physical copy or something like that.
yeah.
Now,
So
when it comes to Godzilla and Kong, the movie,
yeah.
I'm Team Godzilla. So
Well,
you know,
I'll be devil's advocate, even though Godzilla is my thing. I'll be devil's advocate saying, come on, Kong being the pretty much the appendage of ability to climb stuff and jump stuff, he probably has a bit of an advantage. But like I said, Godzilla will always be a classic of mine, but I will be devil's advocate when it comes to Kong. Just to make
and the other thing is, me and Ben know where they're gonna go with the story. We kind of know.
we have a hopeful, strong theory of what's going to happen because they said there'll be a definitive winner. We're like, okay, it won't. I hope it won't be like the whole controversial. They're gonna favor one over the other, but like, what accounts of what we've seen? It's like, oh, please, please, please.
We already people already have spotted what we already knew in
Yeah,
the trailer. We were like, yeah, of course.
yeah.
Uh,
So, obviously, again, that will be that. Again, from what we used to do, maybe we'll do like certain movies that we'll talk about as reviews themselves. I do well recently, obviously, with one of the more popular streaming shows, The Mandalorian, coming out. We have seen it. We'll probably do going down the line because there's two things we do want to do. One, everything Star Wars. We'll probably do maybe we'll talk about maybe the movies, maybe them three cool, so we can kind of get that there, or we'll do singular reviews. But I definitely want to talk about Mandalorian, and then of course someone who has been indoctrinated with the world building and mythology of Star Wars, literally from I'm gonna say the genesis of like the release of Clone Wars and Rebels when it premiered, like on televisions.
right, you're talking about the TV show Clone
Yeah.
Wars and Rebels, right? Yeah,
I
yeah,
will,
yeah.
I will be getting into that fairly soon. I'm trying to make the time so I can watch it, and we'll go down the line and talk about that. Which will, when we do get around to that, will hopefully lead into whatever plans Disney has for the live action stuff. We can then say, okay, what can they carry from there into that? Because obviously things like people already know, like Bo-Katan or Ahsoka Tano, were originally from Clone Wars, if I'm
Clone
not
Wars,
mistaken.
yeah, they
So,
originated from Clone Wars.
and obviously things they set up, like Thrawn, which was he originally in the novels, or was he also just introduced in Clone Wars early?
Okay, I get to shine here.
Go.
He was introduced in Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire, which is an old book from the 90s, which is the first book out of the what would be called at that time the EU. And then he was reintroduced in Rebels, part of the Disney merger and stuff. And then he got another 3 books and another trilogy of books. So he's a very like Disney knows that he's a very popular character, and they know don't fuck with Thrawn.
Yeah. I mean, we could probably go into what that's about, like especially as Thrawn as a character, and obviously with the rumored of like who would be perfect to play that character, et cetera, and so forth. So, but that would be one thing I definitely want to get covered with the channel. And another thing which we had talked about previously, which we could hopefully get down the ground, is Mr. Everything Star Trek. I think you wanted to do so because we did. I think we started our beloved little channel talking about Into Darkness lovingly, and now realizing what the hell were we on back in the day?
I think we were just very excited.
Pretty, yeah.
When that was the beginning of our podcast, we were like, "Oh God, we're doing it and stuff."
So
and
yeah,
and then I'm like, ay, ay, ay.
especially when so just to kind of get people there, because I've only seen a handful of the movies. I'm gonna highly say you've seen all of them, even to your detriment, the lesser quality ones of all the
Yep.
Star Trek.
I've seen like anything Star Trek related, even the new stuff I have seen, and some of the new stuff I do not like. That's my opinion. I just don't think it's
up to par with what they were able to do in the beginning.
It's one of those like when you look at what they did in the 90s with Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, and you look at what's coming out now, I'm like, like what's going on? It doesn't, the writing it's okay. It's not like, it's not crazy. It's not like I'm watching an episode of Sins of the Fathers written by Ronald D. Moore.
Yeah, he told me about that. I'm
Yeah.
like that. But okay, so obviously going movie wise, what is your favorite of the Star Trek films?
What is my favorite? Has to be 6, The Undiscovered Country. I mean,
For me,
I have the soundtrack. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say for me, from all the films I've seen, it's gonna be First Contact, because that was the one I distinctly remember before I actually really watched it when I was a little kid. I remember seeing, Data transform into human, what the Borg Queen looked like, and I think Data and Borg
That was actually our first introduction to the Borg Queen. And may I say, hold on. As the original series movies, 6 is my favorite. But
Next Generation movies.
Next Generation, I have to agree with Ben. It is First Contact. But as I've grown older, I like the other ones. You know, I like Insurrection, even though not a lot of people like Insurrection. But you
Yeah,
have to
like I've heard.
understand.
Yeah,
You have to understand the idea of what the story for Insurrection was. It was the fountain of youth.
yeah.
You know,
So
he was never growing old.
yeah, and I'll be like one of those and say when it comes to the original series, it will have to be Wrath of Khan just because of everything that it presented and how
Right.
it went from that boring shit that was the first movie. Because I just remember watching it thinking, "Oh my god, this is Star Trek. This is so freaking boring."
Um, see, here's the thing. Khan for me is in another like realm of like it was like too good. It can't be on that. Like it's in the
Yeah,
all-star list. Like I don't. The reason why I say 6 is my favorite because it's the peace treaty between Klingons and the Federation. You
yeah,
know, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's like it impacts the timeline.
yeah,
You know, it's Khan is just something else that's like fucking amazing. It's like holy
yeah.
shit.
So as you see, we'll talk about this more here and there, and obviously everything else, just because the movies and the series really paved the way a lot for a lot of things sci-fi-esque. So, being respectful, you have Star Wars being very fantasy and all about like not as complex ideas, but with Star Trek being able to do a lot of those complex ideas.
Well. It see it, Star Wars. I've always thought of it as space fantasy, right?
Yeah.
And Star Trek is real fantasy, like not real fantasy, it's real sci-fi. It's in our world, it's in our timeline, but in the future of what we could become.
Yes.
You know,
Which maybe Elon Musk will get us to Mars and then we'll start.
I'm I'm
It's
I'm hoping so much. I'm
yes. So
and if people don't know, I'm a big rocket science. Like I watch all the launches. I'm up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like if I catch them, if I'm up after I play my video games, I'll be like, "Oh, there's a rocket launch." I watch it. I just watch it. I'm like a nerd. I'm a nerd when it comes to space.
I'm pretty sure if you're like a good 60 or 70, and it will have the ability to do space travel, you'll be like, hey, listen, I'll give everything in my possessions to go there. I'll do something. I will literally be a red
Mhm.
shirt.
No, not a red shirt.
Star Trek
No.
reference.
Yeah.
but
Um,
again, things about movies, and we'll probably do like topics to talk about. Like we won't go into one we're gonna definitely get into down the line. We are trying to fine tune it so we can be, make sure our points come across in a respectful manner, but really get into how we really feel. Like we don't want to obviously placate to a safe type of situation, but we're like, look, we want to say it and we want to technically be respectful, but it has to be said. That I'll say like that. But again, it will be because I know I was looking back at a lot of our stuff. There was at one point one thing I talked about, like, oh, Christopher Nolan was supposed to produce the Akira film, and the latest has been Taika Waititi was supposed to direct it, but then there's been problems.
and people, Ben. Oh, sorry, wrong way. Ben has been waiting for that movie
Okay.
since high school. I've known him since high school, right?
Yes.
He's been waiting that since high school.
But, well, it's because it was always DBZ and a little bit of Naruto. I'm trying to remember, and I did watch a few episodes of Fairy Tale. I'll say few because you got me into it. And Gundam Wing. Like again, it was some more classic-ish stuff that people would know, not like things like Fairy Tale and Alchemist Brotherhood, like
Full
stuff.
Metal Alchemist
Brotherhood.
Brotherhood.
Okay,
Yeah, okay, all right. So basically, the two I like, because I'm very nitpicky with my anime. I like the '90s and Dragon Ball Z, which me and Ben have. Everybody in the '90s.
R dub.
Yeah, R dub. Now the other two is Fairy Tale and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, because when it comes to Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I relate to the character Edward a lot. A lot. And quite very fondly. And I like the performance dubbed and Japan from everybody. So
yeah. And
go ahead.
I said, no, you finish up and then I'll go back to my
No, go ahead. I'm
well,
done.
no, did you have something? You sure? I didn't want to cut
No,
you off.
no. I'm good.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
Because again, even growing up as kids, it's like it was always like Pokemon and Digimon, like some of the first of those
Well,
cartoons.
Pokemon, I'm still a fan of. Like, I don't watch the anime. I collect the trading cards.
I lost my trading cards. I know I had like a not the limited Charizard one that goes
Mm-hmm.
for like mad money, but I did have one that was reflective, and I'm like, damn it, I wish I still had those. But
I have mine tucked away in a storage and shit. Yeah.
he's waiting for the right time. Maybe the right time to be like, who wants to come on.
Excuse me. People, get this straight. Mine will never be sold.
You would have to pry them out of his cold dead hands in space to get them. So
Exactly.
so to go back to Akira, the thing
Mhm.
is the fact that they've been trying to do that as a live action for so long, and that's kind of what's interesting because it was, I think, Leonardo DiCaprio actually, I don't know if he's still involved, but had been attached as a producer for a long time, and
Right.
they were always trying to do, I guess, more or less like a very let's say the Dragon Ball Evolution version of an adaptation. We haven't necessarily gotten to a way where Hollywood could find a way to be respectful of animes like that. But from what we are told now, because for the longest time, people like George Takei and others have been saying, no, at least get Asian actors there. But the whole argument is, well, I mean, general audiences, this and that. So we're now hopefully at a time with Nolan, because of the fact that, he has people like Ken Watanabe and has actually, I think, a really strong following in like places like Japan and China because how the movies are done and whatever. So it's like, okay, maybe he'll bring some influence there, because I want to say things like Inception and a couple things in Batman and whatever.
So is Nolan directing it or producing it?
No, he was originally attached to possibly help produce it. I think that was
Oh, okay.
originally like on the bank with Warner Brothers before whatever's going on with him in the studio right now.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
But the thing is, with like say something like that, again, that would be kind of maybe like if we hear a random story, maybe we'll hop on real quick and talk about that as like a quickie or whatever. But again, I would say in regards to that, because I know one thing they wanted to do was like, okay, could we set it in like as the original was Neo Tokyo, they wanted to be Neo Manhattan, but everyone's like, how would you explain Asian characters predominantly this? So it was always something. And I know one of the writers said, no, what if Japan bought Manhattan? Like,
No.
really?
No, it has for
Go.
me, I haven't like watched it, like I watched maybe clips in here.
Yeah.
But for me, it has to be in Tokyo because you have to get that shot of the Olympics. You know what shot I'm talking about? Like, oh, the Olympics was supposed to, and then you know you have to
Yes.
get that. It has to be Tokyo, and there's other stuff. Why it just has to be? It
Yeah.
has to be fucking. It has to be Tokyo.
Which I think we're now at a point where yes, it's gonna. I think they are setting strict on Tokyo. Which if it was that, and because now we're having a lot of emerging talent, and obviously things like say a K-pop being the popular thing, even though that's something entirely different. It's like yes, now people can honestly take this for what it is, and with the anime community and the fanboy community saying yes, we will support this if it's done respectfully, if it's done with grand scale, if it was done right by people who respect the material and not looking for a cash grab. Because that's not what we want. We want something that is worth the scope and the scale and the budget of a feature film, if done right. So let us hope for that. But other than that, and obviously maybe at the end of the episodes, we'll get into what J Fry has either gotten on Blu-ray or streaming and stuff like that. Because things are forever dropping, and some stuff will interest us. Some stuff I'm like, I'll watch it later. So
Yeah, I'm usually the one out of the podcast who will sit on Best Buy or Amazon and be like, "Ooh, I need to pick that up. Ooh, it's $5. Ooh, I never got it." I'll pick it up and stuff.
I'm trying my best to hold my impulsive purchasing practices because it is bad, and he knows it.
Oh no, yeah. Yeah.
So
I try to wait. Like it's been a while since Ben knows. It's been a while since I bought a couple Blu-rays and whatever. So I this week or past 2 weeks I kind of bought a couple movies and stuff.
yeah. So any final thoughts with this episode, sir?
No, I'm fine. But just hold off. Please, as you can see at the bottom, if you're watching the live stream, please follow us on Instagram at Movie Confessions. Yeah, it's the underscore.
It's the two
Underscore.
underscores.
Yeah, it's the 2 underscores confession. That's all. That's it for now. But
And yep, this is Ben.
this is John J. Fry, and we have confessed.
See you
Bye
till
bye.
see you to the next confessional.